Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
It's the divisional round, and you can follow all the action at BetOnline.net. On Saturday, LA visits the frozen tundra of Green Bay, while Baltimore and Buffalo face off with their electric third-year quarterbacks. On Sunday, and after winning their first playoff game in 26 years, Cleveland meets last year's champs. In the late game, two legendary future Hall of Fame QBs square off as Tampa visits the Big Easy. Check out all the action this week at BetOnline.net as teams take one step closer to the championship. Always available online or your mobile device. Visit BetOnline.net today. Bring the game home at BetOnline.net. It's the divisional round, and you can follow all the action at BetOnline.net. On Saturday, LA visits the frozen tundra of Green Bay, while Baltimore and Buffalo face off with their electric third-year quarterbacks. On Sunday, and after winning their first playoff game in 26 years, Cleveland meets last year's champs. In the late game, two legendary future Hall of Fame QBs square off as Tampa visits the Big Easy. Check out all the action this week at BetOnline.net as teams take one step closer to the championship. Always available online or your mobile device. Visit BetOnline.net today. Bring the game home at BetOnline.net.
Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
Welcome to Sporgy, the show that gives you half-ass sports fans giving their half-ass opinions. And now, here are your hosts.
Oh, it's Fantasy Hack. Episode 3. We're back. May not have winning records, but we're back. Ooh, rough week for me. How about you, JR?
Same here. Just Monday night was not kind to me. I understand it wasn't kind to you.
Nope.
Yeah. Miscalculated a few things, made one huge bonehead mistake, but we can go in that in a bit.
Yep. Will Lutz, that final field goal, took enough points away from Houston's defense for me to lose by 0.18. It was good times.
Well, my two biggest money leagues, in both leagues I played the number one scorer of the week, and in one of them I lost 161 to 146. And 146 was like 25 higher than the next team. And so I lost with the second highest score in the league. And the other money league I had, even though I lost convincingly, I deserved to lose because I started the dreaded Jameis Winston over Lamar Jackson, which cost me 40 points alone, that one decision. So I probably won't be starting famous Jameis this week.
Yeah, I started him over Baker Mayfield. Oops. My fault.
Well, and Baker Mayfield was a big disappointment too. So a lot of disappointments. Certainly, if you're a Cleveland Brown fan, all around.
Yeah, that was definitely an underwhelming debut for the what have people been calling them, the off-season Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, and boy, was that Patriots game scary. Now they're getting Antonio Brown.
Oh man,
that could be just unstoppable. They might not lose a game.
No.
Although it has just recently come to light there are rape allegations against Mr. Brown.
Yeah, he's got some legal troubles.
But who knows? It sounds like a he said, she said. I don't know what the league can do or will do, but stay tuned. It's an ongoing soap opera. That's what you get with AB.
On that, too, that happened since we last got together. He was a Raider, and we were talking about how, and then the soap opera just, it was something new it seemed the day after we recorded, there was something new every day. Wednesday, he got in a fight with Mike Mayock. Thursday, he was suspended. Friday, he apologized. And then Saturday, he's like, release me, and then he goes to the Patriots.
Yep, the rich get richer.
Yeah.
Well, stay tuned. It's a never-ending saga. And the Patriots also have Josh Gordon, so he's another walking time bomb. You never know. Mm-hmm. But if you got him, smoke him, right?
Yeah, I mean, AB.
Unless you're Josh Gordon.
Yeah, Josh Gordon. You smoked a little too much. That's why you're in this trouble. But
all right. Well, I'm just going to recap just a few things. Number one, what a great performance by Lamar Jackson. He gets my stud of the week. Even though I didn't start him in that one league, I did have him in one or two others. On the bench, in most cases, I did start him legitimately in one league, which, of course, I won. So I'm really happy to see him get off to a good start. Of course, the Miami Dolphins can make a lot of people look good, so let's take it with a grain of salt until we get a little bit more evidence, but he sort of looks like the real deal.
Yeah, and the one knock on him, a lot of people kept saying is, teams are going to have tape on him now and look out, and he couldn't throw. Well, he shut those people up.
Yep, well, and looking around the league, of course, my Philadelphia Eagles, boy, how about homecoming for Deshaun Jackson?
Yeah, it was like it's 2010 out there.
Yeah, 10 years after he was drafted, he looks just as fast. So certainly it was a great performance by him, and I'm sure he was elated to do it against his old mates in Washington. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Of course, we saw the dismantling of the Chicago Bears by the Packers. That was a big surprise. A lot of people are expecting big things from the Bears. A lot of disappointments on that Bears roster. Really, the only player worth any production last week was Allen Robinson, who broke the 100-yard mark. But other than that, Montgomery didn't do much. Tariq Cohen, it was a rough night for that Bears offense. We'll see what happens this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I took a chance on David Montgomery as a flex in one league, and boy, that did not pay off.
A lot of people drafted him pretty high. There was, just goes to show you can listen, you can read all the magazines, you can read articles, you can do your research, you can hear the hype, but at the end of the day, everything's out the window when the games begin. And There were a lot of surprises. We already mentioned the subpar performance by Baker Mayfield, pathetic performance by Jameis Winston through 2 pick sixes, cost his team the game.
I did something that I talked about that I didn't believe in. A lot of people who pay all these attention to guys who have not played 1 minute of pro football. You take a chance, you draft them, and hopefully David Montgomery's going to work out. But yeah, it's this week proved once the games start happening, all bets are off.
All bets are off, and you can listen to all the pundits, you can listen to us, but take all the information you have and go with your gut. That's always my best advice. Because, you know what, I was told to draft Mike Evans this year, and I had him in a league as a keeper for like 4 or 5 seasons. And every year, at the end of the year, I find myself saying, never again. I mean, the guy's a stud when he's healthy, but he's not always healthy, and then he disappears at times. And he put up another stinker this week, and it might not even be his fault because Winston had a horrible game. But that's just one of those things where you trust your gut. And I can remember being in drafts where my pick was up and Evans was the top guy on the board, and I'm like, no, I said never again. But then again, there's some other boneheaded moves I made, like starting Miles Sanders, my Eagles homer. Trying to remember who I had that was much more productive. But sometimes you do things with your heart you shouldn't do, so try to always put those to the side. I also regret not drafting Michael Gallup. I have an aversion to Cowboys. I hate the Cowboys, but you know what? At the end of a lot of drafts, he was available, and I thought, he's probably going to be good. And I'm like, no, he's a Cowboy. I'm not taking him. And what did he have? Like 150 yards against the Giants. So it may not be a permanent thing, but for a late round flyer, he looks like a pretty good steal there. And then we would be remiss not to mention the Lions-Cardinals game where no one won and no one deserved to win. I'll let you comment on that as a Lions fan.
SOL, man. I was telling Earl and Rich, the guys who do Sporgy with me on Thursdays, I was telling them when the Lions were up, I think it was 21-0. I was like, they will fuck this up, and they did.
Oh, it was in epic fashion too, and you could just see it, evolve. And having lived in the Detroit area for 7 years, I expected it too. Now I understand the agony of being a Lions fan, but I got to give you guys credit. You keep going back for more. But from a fantasy perspective, we saw some interesting things. Kyler Murray certainly impressed in the second half after a slow start.
He looked like a pile of shit in the first half, and he looked like a world beater in the second.
David Johnson showed flashes. Maybe not 5th pick in the overall draft flashes, but top 3 rounds flashes. So I think those of you who have him can be comfortable thinking he'll be productive as long as he stays healthy. Anybody else in that game stand out? Larry Fitzgerald, the dinosaur, just keeps getting it done, especially towards that end of the game where they're playing the comeback. He was remarkable. I think he eclipsed the 100-yard mark, but he's just like Rasputin. Every year you think he's going to retire, and he keeps coming back, and he keeps making plays. So there was Kerryon Johnson still looks pretty good.
I mean, God, I hate to say it, Matt Stafford put up almost as many fantasy points as Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and how about Hawkinson, the rookie? He looked really good.
Which, that'll just kind of tie into when we get to waivers and stuff. Like, I don't buy week 1, not as a fantasy player, not as a football fan. I don't. Because there's a lot of anomalies that happen in week 1. There's a lot of people that'll come out strong out the gate, and then they're quiet for the rest of the season. There's people that'll be, quiet the first game, and then they're on fire the rest of the season. Like, I'm just always weary of week 1.
Yeah, I saw a lot of teams. Of course, as an Eagles fan, I watched the Eagles game, and they looked like they were still in preseason mode in the first half. They went into halftime down to Washington, and they looked like a different team in the second half. So maybe the first half was really their preseason for all those guys that didn't play. They had to shake off the rust. But I saw some other games that were really sloppy, either the whole game or at least the beginning. So, yeah, it takes some time to take some hits and get some bruises and get into the game flow and get into your rhythm. And we saw that happen in a lot of games. So, but Ravens look good, and we'll talk a little bit about some suggested waiver pickups shortly. I just wanted to go down the schedule and say the Tennessee Titans, wow, what a great effort against the Browns. They surprised a lot. And if you're looking for a defense, they were the number 1 defense last week, I believe. The Giants look like garbage. I think Sterling Shepard's already injured. Saquon Barkley still got his 100-yard. He had a big run. So, he's pretty much money in the bank. The Carolina Panthers held their own.
CMC, best running back of the week.
Was dominated, yes. And what a surprise by the Cincinnati Bengals. They actually look like a football team.
Yeah, surprising.
And, again, John Ross could be a great pickup this week, especially while Green is injured. A.J. Green's still not playing.
Wide receiver
Chargers
3 last week.
Chargers, Austin Eckler filled in admirably for the holding out Melvin Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
The Colts actually looked a lot better than people thought they would without Andrew Luck. They're not the Andrew Luck Colts, but they look like a 500 team this year at least.
I know this might pain you to talk about this, but I think the Cowboys might be a playoff team this year.
Oh, yeah, the Cowboys looked very impressive. Now, let's temper our expectations
it was against the Giants.
New York Giants.
Yeah.
So,
that's what I'll caution everybody with the Ravens. It was against the Dolphins.
And what about those Patriots, though, man? I mean,
they dismantled the Steelers. I bet Big Ben was missing AB's hands with all those drop passes on Sunday.
Well, Ben didn't have much time to operate. That Patriot pass rush was a force. Let's see, the Steelers. They're going to have another tough one against the Seattle Seahawks this week. We'll see if they can rebound. They looked. Well, let's see if it was that the Patriots were that good, or if the Steelers are going to be struggling this year. I know there's a lot of Juju Smith-Schuster fans disappointed with his output.
Well,
Jacksonville Jaguars lost their quarterback. Nick Foles throws a bomb for a touchdown and breaks his collarbone on the play. Although his understudy who came in, the rookie from Washington State, looks really good.
What is his? He's got some crazy name. Gardner Mishnu.
Mishnu, that's it. Yeah, so that might be a name to keep an eye on if you're desperate for a quarterback. Let's see if he can keep that up. He was extremely effective after Foles went out, and Foles is on IR, so it's going to be the Minshew show.
Yeah.
Better for Kansas City Chiefs, rolling just like they always do. Although
Mahomes picking up right where he left off.
Mahomes is nursing a minor injury. I think he's still going to play, but keep an eye on that.
But they lost Cheetah. Cheetah's gone for a minute.
The Falcons didn't look good. They'll host the Eagles this week on Sunday Night Football. But I'm sure Matty Ice fans were very disappointed. I had Matt Bryant, the kicker, and I got a big fat 0.
Yeah, big goose egg, me too.
So I'll be looking to replace him on waivers this week. I think that covers just about everything that I wanted to cover with last week's action. But hey, everybody, relax. It's just 1 week. If you're 0-1, it's okay. It's a long season. In most leagues, you got a 13-game season. And, karma comes around. So those unlucky, heartbreaking losses you had this week, maybe this week you'll be on the other end of that. Let's hope so. But we're here to try to help you. Again, we can only give you advice what we think. We do a lot of studying, but just like everybody, at the end of the day, trust your gut. We'll give you some options, and trust your gut. Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah,
because
I'm a firm
10
believer.
leagues, I was 4-6 last week.
Yeah, I was 2-4, and 0.38 was separating me from 4-2. I'm of the belief that just like the regular football season, the fantasy season is won and lost in October. So if you lost week 1, don't worry about it.
And you know what? I looked at my rosters from last year. Last year at the beginning of the season to the end, and probably in most cases at least half the roster is turned over. So there's going to be a lot of waiver moves made, a lot of players dropped, players added, and you just got to stay on it. I mean, I looked at my leagues. I put a spreadsheet together, and I put when the waivers run for each league, because last year I missed out on waivers a lot, and 7 of my 10 leagues run waivers Tuesday night. So you got 24 hours after Monday Night Football to get all your stuff inputted for all these teams, and then the last 3 leagues I can do tomorrow or Wednesday. So stay on top, know your rules, know when your waivers run. Be smart. If you have a waiver, there are 2 kinds of waivers. Some of them roll over every week to the weakest team goes first. Other ones are just a revolving door. When you select a player on waivers, you go to the bottom of the list, and then you rise as other people pick. So in leagues like that, a lot of times, if I'm not really desperate or if there's a player I know is going to be claimed, if I just need a kicker or a defense or something like that, I just wait till the waivers run, and then I wait till free agency to pick my guys up. Another trick a lot of people will do is they'll wake up in the middle of the night or 4 in the morning, once they figure out what time their waivers are processed, and they'll want to be first to get those scour the free agents where you don't lose any waiver position. But if you have a league that resets your waivers to the weakest team every week, I just put in all your moves on waivers because it's just going to reset every week. But if you're in a revolving one, then I would think really hard before using that, especially when you get to the top of the ladder. Wait for a really marquee pickup to blow your waiver.
Yeah, and if you're new to fantasy football and you think you don't have to work the waiver wire, just give up. You have to. You have to. There's injuries. There's underperforming players. No, there's bye weeks. You have to work the waiver wire. There's no other option. You will not win. I'll be that blunt about it.
Sporgy.
ChristopherMedia.net.
It's the divisional round, and you can follow all the action at BetOnline.net. On Saturday, LA visits the frozen tundra of Green Bay, while Baltimore and Buffalo face off with their electric third-year quarterbacks. On Sunday, and after winning their first playoff game in 26 years, Cleveland meets last year's champs. In the late game, 2 legendary future Hall of Fame QBs square off as Tampa visits the Big Easy. Check out all the action this week at BetOnline.net as teams take one step closer to the championship. Always available online or your mobile device. Visit BetOnline.net today. Bring the game home at BetOnline.net. It's the divisional round, and you can follow all the action at BetOnline.net. On Saturday, LA visits the frozen tundra of Green Bay, while Baltimore and Buffalo face off with their electric third-year quarterbacks. On Sunday, and after winning their first playoff game in 26 years, Cleveland meets last year's champs. In the late game, 2 legendary future Hall of Fame QBs square off as Tampa visits the Big Easy. Check out all the action this week at BetOnline.net as teams take one step closer to the championship. Always available online or your mobile device. Visit BetOnline.net today. Bring the game home at BetOnline.net. It's the divisional round, and you can follow all the action at BetOnline.net. On Saturday, LA visits the frozen tundra of Green Bay, while Baltimore and Buffalo face off with their electric third-year quarterbacks. On Sunday, and after winning their first playoff game in 26 years, Cleveland meets last year's champs. In the late game, 2 legendary future Hall of Fame QBs square off as Tampa visits the Big Easy. Check out all the action this week at BetOnline.net as teams take one step closer to the championship. Always available online or your mobile device. Visit BetOnline.net today. Bring the game home at BetOnline.net.
At Jewelers Mutual, we're a little obsessed with jewelry. Obsessed like auctioneers with talking fast.
50, we're going to fit
Pop stars with auto-tune. And dentists with asking questions.
So, how did he propose?
After they've put their hands in your mouth.
Great.
Yes, we've made jewelry our obsession for over 100 years. We love it so much we named our kids Ruby, Amber, and Opal.
Venti soy latte for Opal?
At Jewelers Mutual, we insure jewelry and only jewelry, which is why people who are also obsessed with jewelry trust us with theirs.
ChristopherMedia.net.
Sporty.
But while we're talking about waivers, because we're going to go into week 1 waivers, we might have some philosophical differences here about waivers in week 1, because I am not a fan. It kind of goes back to what I was just talking about. Like, you don't know. And maybe I'm more of a numbers guy. I like averages. Maybe I like to get that second week in there. But I'm really only a fan of waivers in week 1 if somebody gets injured. But I'm sure there are plenty of other. You're already sounding like you're running it. You probably already got your claims in.
I've only got to 2 of the 7 that run tonight, so I'll have to do that after we're done. But yeah, I have guys I really was impressed with that I'm going to go with. But let's go start with Marquise Brown of the Ravens. Huge day. He had 154 yards and 2 touchdowns, I think. I actually had him on 2 of my rosters on the bench. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty happy that I at least did that, but I'm going to put in for waivers for him in a couple other leagues. But that might be a guy that you don't hear from till week 8 again too. So
yeah, that's the caution I've been hearing on him is he only ran like 12 routes. Now he made the most of them.
He might be running twice as many next week. So I don't want to be the guy that misses out on that because half the leagues will claim him. But I will temper my expectations to know that may have been an anomaly because I think the Miami Dolphins are going to produce a lot of those, can't miss waiver claims this season. Who do the Dolphins? Oh, the Dolphins play the Patriots. Oh,
what's it? But boy. The Ravens are playing the Cardinals next week, so you might get another big game out of Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, I would agree, and I'm buying on him. I just like what I see, and we'll see. DK Metcalf looked pretty good too for the Seahawks.
Yeah, he got more.
I don't think he had huge
Tyler
numbers,
Lockett.
but I saw enough that I had him on the bench in a couple of my leagues. Took late round flyers on him. He might be a guy I wait for free agency, and if no one snags him, I might. It depends who's on your bench too. If you've got guys on the bench that are expendable. Or that you saw nothing from. I'm trying to think. I had a couple of those guys, but
by the way, correction: Marquise Brown only 5 targets.
Oh, that's for those.
But yeah, John Ross. What do you think of that guy?
John Ross. That's another guy that, because my name is John Russ, I have been following his career, and he has done absolutely nothing until this game. But without AJ Green in there, they seem to. How many targets did he have? Do you know?
12.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see that holding up, but 12 targets is really hard to ignore. But with John Ross, I think I'm going to be more like you and say, let's see another week of that before I buy, because at the beginning of this season, I swore I wouldn't touch any Bengals, and they actually looked like an NFL franchise last week. So
let's talk about Derrick Henry. You buying that?
I'm buying it only because of how he finished last year, and he had a big play this year and scored well, or this week. I am buying.
He's burned me too much in the past. I've been hurt before with Derrick Henry. It's just he'll have a game like last week, and then he'll be quiet for a month.
Yeah, that could happen. The Titans play the Colts this week. We'll see. It's in Tennessee. I don't know. I have a pretty good feeling about him. I only have him in one league. I think I did have him starting. I have a weak running back group with that league, but he held his own for me. So let's see. Who else are we looking at for waiver picks? I saw somebody last night that really excited me, and that's Darren Waller for the Oakland Raiders, tight end. He got a ton of targets too, and I think he looks like probably like a wide receiver 2 or 3 production out of the tight end spot. I'm going to be looking to grab him.
The heir to Jared Cook in Oakland.
Well, hey, I'd rather have him than Jared Cook. There's too many mouths to feed in New Orleans, and he didn't do a whole lot there. And when's the last time New Orleans had since Jimmy Graham left, they really haven't utilized that tight end very much in the receiving game. So I'm tempering my expectations on him. I did not draft him in any leagues this year. And I had him when he was on the Raiders. But I like Waller. He looks good.
How about John Brown?
Yeah, that's one of those guys that never again for me. I've had him, and he's like feast or famine. He had a huge game, and then he disappears for a month. So
I've been burned on him too much.
And really, can you really rely on any Buffalo Bills receiver? Hey, when's the last time? What is it? Gosh, I can't remember. Andre Reed, maybe?
Yeah.
Even when Sammy Watkins was there, who had a monster game for Kansas City, when he was in Buffalo, he never did anything.
Let's talk about Sammy. Don't believe the hype, all right? He will be getting more looks because Tyreek Hill is out. But I have been a Sammy Watkins owner probably the last 4 seasons. Never pays off. It never pays off. Yeah, it paid off this week. If you started him, you lucked out. He put up 47 points-ish. But he's not consistent. He's worth holding on to till Tyreek Hill comes back. But once Tyreek Hill comes back, he's going to go back to it. Sammy Watkins has always been feast or famine.
Well, I would agree. Let's temper expectations. But you know what? Mahomes is going to get people the ball. Who's the other guy in Kansas City that's there's a rookie that's everybody's talking about? I can't believe I don't have these names in front of me. I'm looking right now.
Yeah, but I know he had 0.
That's why he's not coming up on my board.
He had 0 targets, but he played every snap.
But I would, I'm embarrassed that I don't have his name here, but I would look for him. He was another guy I wrote down that I'm going to be looking for. He's got a really weird first name. Oh, what the heck's wrong with us?
Hold on, I'll find it real quick.
Top players. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I'd like to redo that because now I'm going to find them. I got the whole roster here.
Mecole Hardman. Yeah, we found it at the same time.
Okay, so start recording again now. So, with Tyreek Hill out, look for Mecole Hardman to get some action. It's going to be Watkins and Hardman, I believe, are the number 1s and 2s. Mm-hmm. Sammy Coates is on there, too. Is Kelvin Benjamin really on Kansas City Chiefs?
Wow, I didn't even know either of those two guys are still playing.
I'm not sure either. Well, he's in one of my systems here, but those are the two names. Certainly for waivers, look for Mecole Hardman if you're in search of a wide receiver. It may be a reach, but
Terry McLaurin on the Redskins.
Terry McLaurin, very impressive wide receiver, rookie out of Ohio State. Had a couple. He had a long ball for a touchdown, and he had another one where he was all alone, 10 yards beyond everybody, and was overthrown. So that's another guy to keep an eye on. He looked really good against the Eagles.
Anyone else worth mentioning?
Well, we got to mention Tevin Coleman is injured, so now that elevates Matt Breida into fantasy relevancy, more relevancy. It was going to be a committee. Now it looks like Breida will get the majority of the carries. Mm-hmm. So another guy to maybe pluck from waivers if he's out there. Some leagues he was drafted, some night. And this is one that I actually saw coming because I had Todd Gurley last year and I backed him up with Malcolm Brown, and now everybody was talking about Darrell Henderson. But Malcolm Brown is getting like a third of the carries and made the best of his. The 5 red zone carries, goal line carries, all went to Brown and none to Gurley. So
yeah.
I think Malcolm Brown is a solid ad this week. I wouldn't expect running back 1 out of him, but certainly a flex play as the goal line back. And if anything, God forbid, should happen to Gurley, I think Brown is actually ahead of Darrell Henderson in that pecking order. Carlos Hyde looked fairly impressive.
The ghost of Carlos Hyde?
Ghost of Carlos Hyde. He's like Rasputin. Every time you think he's gone for good, he reemerges. With the injury now to Darius Geis, lasted not even 1 game. He's got a meniscus injury. He's going to be out for a few weeks, multiple weeks, I'm told. So, of course, that brings Adrian Peterson back into the mix.
They did him dirty, man.
They did do him dirty, and his teammates were unhappy about that. And he took it like a man. I have to admire. He sat in the sidelines, didn't throw a tantrum. But and there it is. Right now, this week, he's going to be needed to step in. So Chris Thompson is another, especially in PPR leagues. If Chris Thompson is out there, I'm looking one of my leagues, and he's available. He looked pretty impressive against the Eagles, too. He got plenty of targets. So, and Giovanni Bernard. If you have Joe Mixon went out. I don't think his injury is serious. I think he's going to play this week. But Bernard filled in admirably. Again, I didn't touch any Bengals, but as injuries mount and ineffective players come up, that might be a running back to look for if you're desperate for running back help. Another running back you might want to consider, we mentioned the injury to Tevin Coleman. Raheem Mostert might be getting a decent amount of carries in San Francisco because I don't think Matt Breida's a 30-carry a game guy. And another guy that I can't believe was productive, but looked actually pretty good. It was Ronald Jones of the Buccaneers, which is probably about the only thing that impressed me at all in that entire game. The Tampa offense just looked like a train wreck. But Jones ran the ball surprisingly effective compared to Peyton Barber, which you're going to get like 2.5 to 3 yards a carry with Barber. He just is who he is, and he's not exciting to have.
Yeah.
So that's about it for running backs. Let's we quickly look at wide receivers here. Of course, we've already talked about Deshaun Jackson. If by some reason he's not drafted, which he is probably only drafted in about 50% of leagues, that's a great pickup. Marquise Brown and John Ross we've already talked about. You mentioned Terry McLaurin. Philip Dorsett looked pretty good, but then again, once Mr. Brown gets to town, if he ever suits up with these allegations, if not, keep an eye on Dorsett. Tyrell Williams looked fairly good for the Raiders. He's available in many leagues. I don't know if Ted Ginn Jr. had 15 points. Maybe Ted Ginn Jr. if you're desperate, New Orleans, but he's another, disappears for weeks and then has a 20-point game.
Danny Amendola, if you're desperate. It looks like he's going to be the number one receiver for the Lions.
23 points, wow.
13 targets, 4 more than Galladay. So it looks like he's going to be the number one guy. I thought he was retired.
So if anybody's like me, I have a couple leagues where I'm really starving at tight end. The invisible O.J. Howard haunted me in 1 or 2 leagues. Vance McDonald was a huge disappointment, as were the entire Steelers offense. So Vernon Davis, I don't know. I think he had that one unbelievable play with a touchdown, but I'm not sure that I'm going to rely on him. But watch out for, again, Darren Waller, I think is the biggest potential of all the free agent tight ends, very rarely drafted.
Delaney Walker's still out there. Pick him up.
A lot of people were high on Noah Fant. He did not impress last night with a paltry 2 points. I think he had like 20-some yards receiving. But that could change. I know Hayden Hurst was a big name talked about in Baltimore, but Mark Andrews by far is the tight end owned there. And, of course, the ageless wonder, Jason Witten, even had a little bit of action, but not really a whole lot available on the tight end market. I actually heard some rumors that Gronkowski was going to come out of retirement after Antonio Brown announced he was signing with the Patriots, and I went in like 3 or 4 leagues and as a flyer just picked him up on free agency. I'll probably be dropping him this week, but you hear that rumor and it's like a false start. It's like you run to the computer. Well, hey, if it's true, what a great find that would be just to get him on free agents.
I'm in a couple leagues where he was taken as a couple people's last pick.
Okay. Well, I didn't take him in the draft, but I certainly looked at him late in the week, right after the AB, before Sunday's games. I think Saturday night. I went in and I'm like, you know what? If there's any truth to these rumors, what do I have to lose? So I took like the last guy I drafted that was, in any leagues that I had anybody expendable, I did it. And now I'm finding myself, dropping him for, the free agents that we've talked about tonight. But, hey, it was worth a try. You never know. And, you never know. Week six, he could say, okay, well, looks like we're going to win another ring. Maybe they could use me, or maybe somebody gets hurt. You never know. I've heard great things. I've heard statements from him that he's feeling really nice, really good and healthy. He's glad he's not playing anymore. He's feeling like $1 million. So there's no reason to think he'll come back, but you just never know.
Yeah. Man, if you would have told me that the top 3 defenses after week 1 would have been the San Francisco 49ers, the Tennessee Titans, and the New York Jets, I'd have asked you if we were in opposite world. But that's...
My strategy, where I don't have a good defense, which probably about half of my leagues, I took the Eagles, which they didn't look impressive at all in defense. They were shredded by Case Keenum. So I'm going to be looking to pick up some streaming defenses this season, and I'm targeting anybody that's playing the Dolphins. Yeah. So if there are leagues out there where the Patriots are available, jump on them if you can, and then just keep looking at who plays Miami, because they do look like a train wreck.
Yeah, I heard there's already guys on the team asking to get out after 1 week.
Well, I can't remember what team it was. Was it a Raiders player that was on the practice squad? The Dolphins, I think, were going to bring him in, and they said, no thanks, I'd rather be on the Raiders practice squad.
Wow.
And they turned down an NFL contract.
Wow.
So that's
I should tell you something, Miami.
Yeah. No, not going there.
All right, and kickers, who cares?
I care because I had Matt Bryan, and he got me a big fat goose egg. So I don't care. I'm finding somebody else, anybody. But kickers are usually a crapshoot. So I'm looking. I might be doing streaming kickers this year. Whoever plays the Dolphins, I'll start the kicker against them. Yeah. Although then you have the problem of it might be all extra points.
Or you find the worst. You find the worst offense's kicker, and you get nothing but field goals.
And there is some truth to that. Bad teams sometimes yield good kickers.
I'm from Detroit, so I'm familiar.
Well, yeah, you do have a good kicker. And Prater, I think, is an excellent pickup if you're looking for a kicker. He kicks in the dome at the home games, and he can kick the long balls, and his team sputters in the red zone frequently. So if there is a Lion to own, that may be one of the best. Of course, Kerryon Johnson, I think, is the best. But growing up, some of the 2 best Lions, at least for me, were Eddie Murray and Jason Hansen. So, I mean, that's I got to say there. Well, they've always had good kickers because they don't score as many touchdowns as they should.
That is correct.
But, hey, you really shouldn't be that disappointed. The Lions didn't lose. They're undefeated.
That is true.
But if there was ever a tie that felt like a loss, Lions fans know that's what that felt like. But at the end of the day, it really wasn't a loss. So, hey, you got a better record than the Bears, right?
It's true.
So you got that, at least for this week. And the Lions play, who are they playing?
Chargers.
Playing the Chargers at home, and then they're at my Eagles. We might have to have a friendly wager here, but I'm sure you'll be asking for points.
I'll bet on the Lions. I'm not crazy.
But the Lions beat the Patriots last year.
Great. They still went 6-10.
That was their Super Bowl.
I picked them to go 1-15 this year, which I'm already wrong because it would be 1-14-1.
All right. Well, I'm gonna pull up one of my teams here, and I'm just gonna quickly say, how about a little stardom sit-em? Who do you like this week in the matchups?
Let's see. Anyone playing Miami?
That would be any Patriots.
Any Patriot
on your roster. The problem with the Patriots is they have so many weapons that you don't know who's going to do anything. I wouldn't expect AB to have a huge game this week, but who knows? Who knows if we'll even be playing it? It's every day's an adventure with him. But I like. Let's see. I got Carson Wentz going against the Falcons. I got Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz. That should probably be a shootout. The Philly defense didn't look great. And it is in Atlanta, and Wentz looks awfully good. He looks like the caliber of play that he had 2 years ago when he should have been the MVP before he got hurt. We got the Jets and the Cleveland Browns. Looks like the game's in New York. We'll see if Cleveland can rebound from that repulsive effort.
Jets, their defense was good last year, and it looks like it's going to be good again this year.
What's up with Beckham? What's up with Beckham wearing that watch, man? He's got a $300,000 watch or whatever it is, and he refuses to take it off. The league says you can't wear that watch. Yeah. He's like, oh, it's made of plastic. Find me. I'm wearing it. So we got another petulant wide receiver.
Just catch the ball, man. Who gives a shit about your watch? Just catch the ball.
Any sneaky plays this week? I'm going to tell you something after watching the Eagles game. You know, everybody's on Miles Sanders, and all indications he's got a lot more carries, but Jordan Howard only had like 6 carries for like 50 yards. He looked really effective when he was in, and I think the Eagles are going to have to look at that. You know, maybe they'll give Sanders another shot, but don't sleep on Jordan Howard. He could be a sleeper. Latavius Murray looked pretty good for the Saints in that Mark Ingram role. Kamara was held back early and looked like Murray had a couple big runs, and then late in the game, Kamara took over like you would expect.
Yeah. Well, you're getting into why I don't trust week 1. Why I always wait after week 1, because offenses are still figuring chemistry out. You know, players who aren't getting a lot of snaps may end up getting more. Players who are getting more may end up getting less. So yeah, it's quite honestly, it's all a crapshoot. Like, talk to me in October. Like, in September, I'd play fantasy very cautiously. Like, yeah, next week I will start picking up people on the waiver, but it's you know, look at it as like it's a baby forming, and that baby doesn't really form till like October.
Yeah, I hear you. And there's something else I wanted to touch on is, man, that Kansas City running back situation just looks like a disaster for fantasy players. Pretty good for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But I think McCoy might have led in carries. Damian Williams got the touchdown. And, man, what do you do there? You know, it's basically you got a 3-headed monster, maybe a 2.5-headed monster. And it's really hard to start any of them because you just don't know what's going to happen. I would have been much happier if they hadn't got McCoy.
Damian Williams is younger, but I said it last week and I'll say it again. I think McCoy comes out of this backfield just because of his history with Andy Reid.
Well, I think there's some truth to that, and so really, if you have either one of those guys, unless one of them gets hurt, it's going to be a tough sledding this year to be relying on those backs as more than like a flex or running back 3. So another huge disappointment, Chris Godwin, but again, that's a function of that dysfunctional Tampa Bay offense. I don't know. Do we think Jameis Winston will get things back together? Don't see it in Carolina.
Maybe not in Carolina. Well, maybe because it's a rival. He might up his game.
We can only hope so. And it's a Thursday night game too, short week. So can only hope that he's eager to make up for his mistakes from last week because he looked awful.
Yeah, but the thing though, like overall, he's not garbage. He's not like Blake Bortles. You know what I'm saying? He is a good quarterback. Is he a great quarterback? Remains to be seen, but he's a good quarterback. I think he'll get things figured out.
Well, I listened to the SiriusXM fantasy channel, and some of the pundits on there were saying he was the 6th best quarterback in the league, and I was drinking some of that Kool-Aid, and he's going to be riding pine until he shows me something after that effort.
Yeah, same here. Everybody, I'm here to caution you. The Bills, don't buy it. Do not buy the Buffalo Bills. They got lucky last week. That team does not look good.
The first article I read about players to pick up on waivers, the first player mentioned Josh Allen. Oh, he's a running quarterback. He got like 30, 40 yards. He's gonna run the ball a lot. He got a touchdown. Not buying. I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid at all.
No.
I don't really want any part of any Buffalo Bills until I see huge improvement. Great defense, though. Maybe a stream defense is once in a while with the Bills, but they did pull a game out against the Jets. But Devin Singletary, I expected big things out of him. Now he plays the Giants this week. Let's see. But the Giants really didn't allow Zeke to go wild. I think it was their secondary that got torched. Yeah. 400 yards by Dak Prescott.
Zeke still had a respectable game. You know, for someone who didn't play his second of training camp, it looked fine to me.
And I did have a league where I drafted 4th, and because he's a Cowboy and because he was holding out, I took Le'Veon Bell in that 4th spot, and I'm regretting it already. Of course, a week later he signs, but that was in the middle of what he was. So it's just, but you got a Melvin Gordon and you got a Zeke that played, so who knows? I just didn't want to take the risk, and I was probably just subconsciously looking for any excuse not to take a Cowboy. But that's a fallacy that you just got to get over. You got to start the best player. It's fantasy. It's not your heart. Just like a gambler, don't ever bet on your own team.
Yeah, I say start all your Chargers. They're playing the Lions.
Yeah, and Austin Eckler looks really good. And another guy, we didn't really talk about, Josh Jackson. I picked him up in a couple leagues. He looks like he's at least going to get a third, maybe to third to a half. And I have to think he'll get goal line carries over Eckler. He's much bigger. But another guy, until Melvin Gordon signs, he's going to get some activity. So if you're thin at running back, it might be worth taking a flyer on. But the Lions' defense looked good for a half anyway.
Yeah. That's I was running an errand on Sunday, and it was the Lions game was on where I went. It was the first half, and gentlemen in there was older gentlemen. Lions look like they're going to win this game. I'm like, it is the second quarter. They have to play the whole game. That has been their problem for like the last decade and a half. They don't play the whole game, and they didn't.
Well, there's always next week.
Yeah.
And that's just like all of you who had good weeks this week. Beware. Week 2 is here. And those of you that had some bad luck like Chris and I, hey, it's a new week. Put it behind you. Yeah. The Lions might win and not tie this week.
Or they'll lose because they're playing the Chargers. But I'll tell you, a lot of these games this week, based on what I saw last week, are coin flips. San Francisco at the Bengals, flip a coin. Minnesota at Green Bay, flip a coin. Just because number 12 plays for Green Bay. India, Tennessee, flip a coin.
Let me ask you this. Do you dare take a chance on Andy Dalton? That's another one of those guys, never again for me. But, boy, he sure looked sharp last week.
Andy Dalton, at least as far as fantasy goes, he's another feast or famine guy. Some weeks you're getting 30 points out of him. Some weeks you're getting 11.
And, yeah, you get a couple of those big weeks, and you pick him up, and then he just goes right back to being Andy Dalton.
Yeah, he's burned me before, too. But, yes.
The struggle is real, and I'm sure many of our listeners out there, you've had it happen to you. So go ahead and tweet us, Instagram us, show us your scores of like heartbreaking losses or narrow wins. That I did have one win last night that I was way behind and didn't even expect, and I woke up this morning and I forget who it was. Somebody had a huge night in the nightcap, that Denver game. I think it was Philip Lindsay. Had a big enough night that took me to victory, but improbable one. So it's always fun when you think you're going to lose and then you win. But I had my other game where I was ahead by 30 with 5 minutes left to go in the Saints game, and my opponent had Watson, quarterback, Deshaun Watson for the Texans, and DeAndre Hopkins. And, of course, they hook up for like a 50-yard bomb on the comeback, and I look up and I'm only up by 3, and the other guy had Cortland Sutton in the nightcap, which he got like 100 yards, and I ended up losing by 15. That's the league where I lost despite having the second most points. But, again, it's a new week.
Yeah, it hurts. Will Lutz's foot beat me by 0.18 because it took Houston's defense low enough for me to lose. And then if Josh Jacobs could have ran for 3 less yards, I'd have won that matchup. But it is what it is. It's fantasy football. I love it.
It sure is, yep. And live by the sword, die by the sword. So for all of you who had those heartbreaking moments, it's a long season. You're going to have some triumphs and some bumps in the road along the way. So just enjoy the ride, because I am. All 10 teams. But 4-6 is not a good start.
No. Yeah, same here. 2-4.
But I can only hope my defense improves, because I played the highest scoring team in 3 of those big leagues. But it's a new week.
Yes, it is a new week. And anything else, JR, or that does it?
No, I think that about does it. Let's just set those lineups. Don't forget to write down on a piece of paper or on your wall, wherever you have to write it down. Write down when your waivers run. Mm-hmm. And Chris may be waiting for week 2, but I'm not waiting. I'm going to be, as soon as we get off the air here, I'm going to start putting my waiver claims in to replace some of the dead wood on my bench with some, live wires that might pan out or might be 1 week wonders. But work the wire, like if you at the end of your league, everybody listening, at the end of the league, go back and see who wins the league and how many transactions they made compared to who finishes last. And the inactive teams always finish last. You got to stay up on things. You got to be active. You got to make moves. You got to hit the ground running, and you got to make those moves, and you got to stay current. Hey, we've all had that moment where you hear something on the radio and you run to your computer or you pull your phone out and you grab a player because somebody above them got hurt. Those are the moves that win championships. They really are.
Yep. And everyone's got a fancy smartphone. Maybe you're not writing it down or making a spreadsheet like JR. Put a reminder on your phone. Hey, my waivers are on this day, or put in my claims this day.
Yep.
You got to work the wire. If you don't work the wire, just let someone else control your team. Pretty much. So we are on Twitter at the Fantasy Hack. JR said, tweet us your bad beats, your dominating wins, or just if you're looking for fantasy advice. I mean, we're not. We don't like to claim we're experts, but, it's probably, 30 years of fantasy experience between the two of us, so.
Oh, more than that for me, but I'm old.
Yeah.
But I got 10 teams here, so I got money invested, and I'm looking at the stuff. I mean, I can certainly do my best to advise you the best, what I would do. But always trust your gut, because I could easily blame Sirius XM Radio for me starting Jameis Winston last week, but it's my own fault. I made the choice to start him over Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And I won't be doing that this week. Lamar, you're already in.
And hey, what's up to the Fantasy Hacks League? I'm 1-0 in that league. I take that as a feather in my cap because that's a bunch of fantasy veterans in that league. So I'll take the W where I can get it. I'll eat it up like famous Jameis. But make sure you check out Sporgy, the big show on Thursdays with me, Earl, and Rich. Maybe one day we'll get JR to come join us.
Hey, and I won in the Sporgy League.
Oh, yeah, you did. And make sure you check this show out every Wednesday. It's in the Sporgy feed. It's like a spinoff. At Fantasy Hack on Twitter. Check us out. Spotify, Spreaker.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I think it's at Spotify, but I'll say it again because we get a lot of downloads from there. So thanks for listening. Set your lineups. See you next week.
1st and 10.
Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
It's the divisional round, and you can follow all the action at BetOnline.net. On Saturday, LA visits the frozen tundra of Green Bay, while Baltimore and Buffalo face off with their electric third-year quarterbacks. On Sunday, and after winning their first playoff game in 26 years, Cleveland meets last year's champs. In the late game, two legendary future Hall of Fame QBs square off as Tampa visits the Big Easy. Check out all the action this week at BetOnline.net as teams take one step closer to the championship. Always available online or your mobile device. Visit BetOnline.net today. Bring the game home at BetOnline.net. It's the divisional round, and you can follow all the action at BetOnline.net. On Saturday, LA visits the frozen tundra of Green Bay, while Baltimore and Buffalo face off with their electric third-year quarterbacks. On Sunday, and after winning their first playoff game in 26 years, Cleveland meets last year's champs. In the late game, two legendary future Hall of Fame QBs square off as Tampa visits the Big Easy. Check out all the action this week at BetOnline.net as teams take one step closer to the championship. Always available online or your mobile device. Visit BetOnline.net today. Bring the game home at BetOnline.net.
ChristopherMedia.net.
If you like this show, please tell a friend. Please make sure to rate and comment on all your favorite Christopher Media shows. Please follow us on Twitter and like and share us on Facebook. You can subscribe to all ChristopherMedia.net shows for free on ChristopherMedia.net. Thank you for listening, and thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.